The footage you just saw was an alpha version of a build showcased in a recent dev stream for Anthem that focused on the gear and progression systems. But this stream also showed how builds will work in Anthem, and from that I wanted to use this video to give you an understanding of how builds will work. But before I dive into the nitty-gritty, I want the devs themselves to explain the premise of the build.
I hover.
I'm
getting reduced gear cooldowns by half.
Yes.
And weak point damage. I defeat an enemy with my missile.
Right.
It does bonus explosion damage, and it makes my grenades do 50% more damage for 3 seconds. If I use my grenade and get a 2-person multi-kill, it'll regenerate my shields. If I get a 3-person multi-kill, it will fill my ultimate meter faster.
You got those numbers reversed, but yes.
But yeah, okay. For fast. So after I do all of that, oh, can you load up into the thing? That's okay. So after I do all of that, if my ultimate's filled up, I use my ultimate. That increases all of my gear by, I can't remember the number now. It was 50% or something.
Yep.
Which at that point, my gear cooldowns are so low, they're probably refreshed, and I'm doing it all over again.
It's ludicrous.
That's ridiculous.
Yeah.
So now, let's actually break down how a build functions by looking at what is at play in this specific example. We're going to look at each piece of gear and weapon and discuss individually what they bring to the table while simultaneously piecing it all together. Let's start with the weapons. We have Death from Above, a Masterwork Marksman Rifle, and Rounder's Blaze, a Masterwork Assault Rifle. Death from Above comes with Rafter Sense, which increases weak point damage by 65% while hovering, and also has 3 inscriptions tied directly to the build, those being Increased Javelin Marksman Rifle damage, Increased Javelin Marksman Rifle ammo, and Increased Javelin weak point damage. So right off the bat, we already have some synergies with just one weapon. This weapon already has increased damage, increased weak point damage, increased ammo, and then even more increased weak point damage while hovering. And note, this is just one part, and you can already see what is possible for builds in Anthem. But let's move on to the next weapon, Rounder's Blaze. This weapon's Masterwork property will ignite the enemy on a small hit streak. Now, in this alpha build, it's bugged, and it says a small hit streak is 1. But it's supposed to say 10, so keep that in mind. And then, once again, this weapon also has the same 3 inscriptions that were found on Death from Above. Increased Javelin Marksman Rifle damage, Increased Javelin Marksman Rifle ammo, and Increased Javelin weak point damage. So now, with just these 2 weapons, we can ignite enemies to prime them for detonation to help our teammates out, and we have increased damage for marksman rifles, more increased damage for marksman rifles, increased weak point damage, even more increased weak point damage, increased ammo for marksman rifles, even more increased ammo for marksman rifles, and then even more increased weak point damage while hovering. Which, all this combined is a level of build making I'm incredibly excited for, and we're just getting started. This is just 2 pieces, the 2 weapons. We have so many more pieces to talk about, so let's talk about the gear pieces. So next on the list for the Ranger is the Assault Launcher. In this example, they had a Masterwork Blast Missile called Argos Mace. This gear piece's Masterwork property states that it will detonate an electric explosion when defeating an enemy, and all 4 inscriptions on this play into this build as well, those being Increased Javelin Blast Damage, which directly supports itself, Increased Gear Recharge Time to make itself and the other abilities recharge faster, Increased Thruster Life, which directly supports Death from Above, the weapon that has Raptor Sense, and once again has Increased Javelin Marksman Rifle ammo. And then we have our second gear piece, the Masterwork Grenade called Last Argument, which has a Masterwork property that states that on a small multi-kill, aka 2 kills, will add 10% to the ultimate bar, and then has 2 inscriptions on itself that directly tie to the build, Increased Ranger Grenade Damage and Increased Ultimate Regeneration. And while we have a ton of synergies already at play, increased ammo, increased damage, increased weak point damage both natively and more when hovering, grenade damage, ultimate regeneration both natively and on small multi-kills, but we also have increased thruster life. And we haven't even discussed components yet, and that's where a bulk of the synergies come into play when it comes to builds in Anthem, so let's take a look at them. In Anthem, it is possible to have 6 components, but for this build, only 4 really affect the build, and the other 2 are just supplementary stats. So we're going to only talk about the ones that really affect the build. So to start off, we have Airborne Advantage, that provides a Masterwork property that while hovering, your gear recharge rate is increased by 50%. We have Combined Arms that says where, in this case, when you use your blast missile, the Argos Mace, it increases the damage of the grenade, the Last Argument, by 50% for 3 seconds. This is followed up by Defensive Bulwark, which isn't directly tied to the build, but it plays into the whole thing that states that when you perform a small multi-kill of 3, your shield will instantly restore to 100%. And then to round off the entire thing, we have Tip for the Spear that says by using your ultimate, your gear damage is increased by 50% for 5 seconds. All this combined is what makes this build work. So let's go back through and explain what's going on and how you would put this build into practice. So we'd open up an engagement by hovering to increase the weak point damage for our weapons and also reduce all of our cooldowns by 50%. We'd then use our assault launcher, Argos Mace, to do 2 things. 1, to create an electric explosion in addition to the damage it does by itself, and 2, also increase the damage of our grenade by 50%. We would then immediately follow this up with our grenade, the last argument. If we get a 2 enemy multi-kill, this will fill up our ultimate bar by an additional 10%, and if we get a 3 multi-kill, our shields will be instantly refilled. Then hopefully, by this time, our ultimate bar is filled. If it isn't, we start over and repeat the entire process. Use Argos Mace, use our grenade, rinse, repeat until our ultimate is full. And once our ultimate is full, we would then use our ultimate, which will in turn make our blast missile and our grenade do 50% increased damage for 5 seconds, and then we would repeat this process over and over. And if we wanted to, we can use our weapons, which are also buffed as well through inscriptions and other masterwork properties found on the pieces in this build, which for me is a really cool build concept. And this is just one build for one Javelin. They talked about other builds that exist for the Ranger, such as a melee build or a single target weapon based builds. And once again, this is just one build for the Ranger. There are 3 other Javelins that are coming into the game at launch, and they will have equally complex build. Simply put, I'm really excited for this game and hope that what they've already showed is just the surface of what's to come in Anthem. Guys, I'm really looking forward to making build guides for Anthem, and if they have this level of complexity, I'm going to really enjoy making build guides for Anthem. Regardless, guys, I hope you enjoyed this video, and if you did, I'd appreciate it if you hit that like button, and if you happen to be new here, consider subscribing. Check out all the links in the description, follow me on Twitter, join my community Discord, do all the things you usually do at the end of a video. And for those of you that watched my video yesterday on the gear, loot, and progression systems Anthem, I really appreciate it. And if you haven't, and that interests you, a link can be found in the description. And of course, as always, I want to thank you for your continued support, and thank you very much for sticking with me while I tackle something new that isn't Destiny. I know that's not my thing. I know I've been covering Destiny for 4 years, and throwing a new game at your face might be a little jarring, but those of you that are watching my content and still enjoying what I'm making and following me to whatever game, I sincerely do appreciate that. Destiny content isn't over, I'm just kind of burnt out. So this is a good thing to branch out and try something new. And I hope you guys are enjoying it. And so far, you guys seem to be enjoying it, so I really appreciate that. But that's all I got for you guys right now. So I'm going to get out of here, say my name is Matt, and I'll see you guys next time.